Are we live? Are we really live this time, guys? Oh, it did the thing really quick that time. That's amazing. The rose outside keeps blowing in the wind and it keeps making me think somebody's like walking up to my window, which is weird because I'm on the second floor. So, anyway, hello, everybody, and welcome to day 2 of the free fiction writing workshop where we are going to fictionally write. Okay. All right. So, we got our coffee. I feel like I don't have enough coffee here to get through this. Bunny. Oh my gosh, Bunny's got a ranch. Look at that. Oh my gosh. That worked. Hang on. LA's finest has to do something. They're almost gone. They're pretty much gone. Okay, everybody. I want everyone to give Bunny a big a big round of applause for her snazzy new wrench. Oh, wrench. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah, Bunny's the fucking mechanic, dude. She's gonna fucking wrench you up if you start fucking around, dude. I'm giving Bunny full authority to just like block and report everybody. Block and report everybody. She's not fucking around, guys. Bunny's already mad. She was using exclamations earlier. Oh my gosh. So today we are going to be going over a few things. I was actually really worried because since yesterday, actually, I should probably wait because people are going to start rolling in. So, okay, we're going to wait. We're going to give this a couple minutes, guys. We're going to give this a couple minutes. So, were you guys writing at all in the last 24 hours? If so, tell me all about it. Uh oh. Uh oh. Uh oh. Uh oh. Uh oh. Okay, let me see. If I put my phone on top of a hair tie, if it buzzes, I won't hear it, I think. I think that's how we're going to do this, guys. I think that's how this is going to go. Hooray. So I'm very excited about this. I did get a little more work done on my novel last night. Adam, what's up, bro? It is good seeing you. Me and Bunny talked about you for probably like 45 minutes yesterday, talking about your poetry. So it's good to see you. Um, yeah, so I got a little bit more done with my novel. I'm halfway through. No, I'm probably more than halfway through chapter 5. So, and I'm writing it in order. And I honestly don't know if I should be doing that, but I also don't want to have to go back and add um, foreshadowing stuff. I would rather like know where I'm heading, but then maybe I would do that anyway. I don't know. Maybe I will move around. Do you want potentially inappropriate messages according to YouTube held for review? Because that is on by default. How do you know these things? Um, yeah, I don't know. I guess like did how do you figure this stuff out? This is crazy. You're so good at this. I was checking the mod settings. That's fantastic. Um, yeah. I never finished a novel, but I can't fathom writing it out of order. I'm trying to think if I've ever written anything out of order. I have written some stuff where I will write like the final chapter because like I really know how it's going to go, or like I like some dialogue that I came up with in my head, and so I write it down and then I just keep going because I'm totally in the zone and stuff, and it's nice. um so yeah, whatever. That's the kind of stuff I like. I never finished. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Wow. Yeah, I'm trying to think if I even have. I don't think I've even written a short story out of order. When I'm outlining stuff, there's a lot of times when I outline all over the place, and we're gonna kind of talk about that a little bit um, here when we start talking about pace and shit. But yeah, so yesterday when we did the writing Zoom after the workshop, it was actually really fun. And I think Caitlin really dug it. But we did a writing prompt, which was, and if you didn't do it or go back to watch it, here's the prompt. But we did a prompt that was everything was fine until the phone rang. And we did that. And then after we did it, we did, okay, so that was like you just writing about that. Now, what about if you use that same prompt for your main character in your story? And it was so much fun. I love the surprise second question. Really had me thinking. And if you don't have like a book you're working on or whatever, just do, and I left it in the description, like different ways to do it, but like do it if like somebody else answered the phone. Everything was fine until the phone rang for blank, blank, blank. Or do it for you, but in like a different time period. Like everything was fine until the phone rang in 1950. Like just like whatever. Just trying to take prompts and move them in point of views is really an interesting way to see how your voice as a writer can um, not necessarily change, but how you do things differently based on who you're writing for. You know what I'm saying? Um, so that was a lot of fun. Like I really dug that. And so today after this, we're gonna do another writing Zoom for members and shit like that. So if you haven't yet, join the Anarchy crew down below. Um, yeah. So does anybody have any questions before um, I jump into all of this? Adam says, I think John Grisham said he always writes the last sentence of his books first and then writes everything else to aim towards that. That's actually pretty cool. Like, I don't know his work enough to know if his last sentences are good, but most of the books I've written, I usually come up with the final scene. Like that's usually the thing that makes me want to write the book in the first place. Um, that idea, and then working backwards from there. So yeah. Anything? Okay. So I guess we will just go ahead and start. I know people probably aren't going to be rolling in until about 10 or 20 after, but here we are. I'm not that good at vamping right now. I don't know what else to talk about. I think there's probably something I could talk about, but we won't fuck around like that. We'll just get to the meat and potatoes. Okay, so just a real quick overview of what we were talking about yesterday. And if you want to go back and watch yesterday's video, you should. But it was basically where our ideas come from and how, when we get ideas, a lot of times we don't know what part of the story they should be at. And so it was kind of like a thing where when you get this idea, try to look at that part as the beginning, the middle, or the end, and try to like work around it from those different points and see what that's like. Also, just like inspiration, how to be open to inspiration, how to be open to ideas, and not doing that thing that people do where they think that this one idea is the only idea they're going to have that they're going to be known for and everything. That ideas just come and come and come if you let them. You know what I'm saying? So other than that, the only other thing we did was make the promise that we are not going to edit and we are not going to reread what we write until the first draft of the book is done, and no buts in any of the stuff we're talking about. So if I say something and you're like kind of on the fence about it and you go, yeah, but just don't. The yeah, but is the enemy of doing, just like perfection is the enemy of done. Okay. And I think we're all caught up on what we did yesterday. Sure. Today we're going to be focusing on pace and how to pace your story, how to pace your book series, for crying out loud, because a lot of you, when you come up with an idea, you don't just come up with an idea for a book, you come up with an idea for a series. And it might not start like that. It might just start as a book. But then you start thinking of all these like ideas after that. Oh gosh. Well then, oh, then later maybe this could happen. Oh, that's got to be another book. That's like a different setting, the whole thing. And you do this whole thing and start putting this giant series together that's very, very big and huge and probably a little overwhelming, but that's okay. We'll get to that in a second. But we also got to figure out how long your story is, how long your work is. Because one of the things that people do is that they want to write a book, and that's just what they want to do. They want to write a novel. But the idea they have might not be a novel idea. It might be a short story idea. It might be a poem idea. It might be a song idea. It might be a screenplay idea. Okay. But you need to be able to weigh it out to see what that idea actually is. Okay. So, one of the ways we need to do this is to understand the pace in the first place. So, one of the things I always recommend people do is go look at your bookcase right now. Okay. This is like homework that we're doing in real time. Look at your bookcase. Start picking out your favorite books. Which books on that bookcase are your absolute favorite that you have read multiple times or that you would read again? Just grab like 5 of those books. Okay. I'll wait, really. And if you want to leave them in the chat here, leave them in the chat so people can see. Because before we started this, we were doing the members morning coffee stream, and we were talking about this to an extent. Okay, so now that you guys are looking at the books that you like, the books that you love, the books that make you want to write, okay? Notice if these books are all roughly the same length, okay? I want to hit 80,000 words for my novel. It's about where all crime novels hit word-wise. Well, there you go. That is a good um, way to do it. If you know that that's what they want, then that is what you will give them. So look at these books you got and see if they're roughly the same length. And if they are, how many pages is that? And then how many chapters is that? Okay. Look at the font and the line spacing inside. If this isn't the case for all books, but for most books, if the line spacing is really wide, it's probably like 250 words per page. If the line spacing isn't very wide, it's probably 350 words per page. So do the math and try to see from that what your like word count roughly would be based on these books that you love reading and stuff. Slaughterhouse 5, Hitchhiker's Guide, Color Out of Space, Hamlin Rye, Fellowship of the Ring. Damn! Those are great picks, man. And those are all over the place for the most part. I mean, Hitchhiker's Guide and Fellowship are pretty big. But I think the other ones are roughly the same. Color Out of Space, is that a collection of those stories? Okay. So now that we know what the word count is, how many chapters a book like this is, how many pages, the whole deal. Now that we know this, look at it and try to find out like what it is about that book that you like. Okay. Like, is it when you're going through the book, like start taking notes, like each chapter, what's happening in each chapter. Like just do like a little quick, like quick little note. Like this is what happens in chapter 1. This is what happens in chapter 2. This is what happens in chapter 3. If it's a book you've read over and over again, you should be able to have this like paced out. And I don't mean like make a Cliff Notes version of it, but just like have an idea of how that book is put together. Because we are going like doing this right now. This is like deconstructing fiction, like from like the very, very like smallest detail, like how to put a book together. The problem when you do like what a crime novel is, for instance, like with me, I used to really, really love Carter Brown books. And those were like crime novels. They were like detective thrillers. Okay. Each of those books was between 120 and 122 pages. They were little paperbacks, but they also had like 400 words per page on them. Okay. Now, the length of books per genre changes all the time. So you can probably look that information up at the end of a year to find out what the average word count for those books are. You could probably look at certain publishers or agents, and they should have some kind of like, if you're doing like a query or something like that, they have usually an idea of what they expect books to be, because like epic fantasy and shit, it's like 120,000 words at least. But 80,000 words, that seems a bit steep for that. Like I would have guessed like 70, like 65 to 70, but I mean 80 is not really that much more, so that's fine. But you know, for the most part, figure that shit out. Now, what to do with this information is when you're writing your book, what I don't want you to ever do is if you feel like your book isn't long enough and it's not got like enough to get to 80,000 words, that you just start like fluffing out shit. Like, don't ever, ever, ever do that. Like, make sure anything you're putting in the book moves the story forward. Because if you fluff your book out and you're sending it to publishers or agents, they're going to get all that shit out anyway. And so then you're going to be stuck with like, oh, now you have a 45,000 word book. Like, is that what you want? Because now they're going to make you write like important shit for the rest of the book. Now, what happens when this happens, usually, is that the writer feels like they have failed and they don't want to do this anymore. And the wind is out of their sails and they're just like beat to shit. Okay. Now, what needs to happen and what used to happen probably about 50 or 60 years ago is that your idea for your book series wasn't really strong enough for a book series. But if you took all those ideas and put that into the one book, it's enough to make that book like really amazing. Okay. Now, some of you might be going, but like, what about my book series? You will have ideas for your book series, and we're going to get to that in a minute here. But a lot of your ideas for your big trilogy or quadrilogy or blah, 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 like, you have these great ideas, but they're just scenes. You don't have anything connecting any of these things together. Okay. And so when you get to write the next book, you're like, fuck, how am I supposed to get this dude to the Alps? Like, I didn't even think about that. Now I got to put together this whole fucking story just to get him to the fucking Alps so I could do this one scene that's the climax of book 2. Okay. Like, you don't need to do all of that. You could put all of that shit in the first book. But then some of you might be going, but I can't just put my character in the Alps for this fucking cool part that I have for this book just to do that and then have him come back to where he is over here. Then change it. Instead of the Alps, he's at Niagara Falls. Instead of Niagara Falls, he's in a bathtub in Las Vegas. It doesn't matter. If you're telling a good story and you're good at telling the story, and your characters are like characters that your readers are going to love, they could be doing anything. They could be like trying to figure out how to like pick up a pencil with chopsticks, and that will be enthralling for your readers, you know? So just don't like have your heart set on this big book series when the book you're writing isn't long enough to be a book, you know? Like, pull all that stuff from that series and just make the most exciting fucking book possible. And then from there, you will have more ideas to do this. Like, ideas are just things that happen over time. You're never going to run out of ideas. And so, getting back to this, we'll jump into this right now. We talked about this a little bit yesterday, but having a poverty mindset when you are talking about the ideas you get, that is the worst thing in the world you can do. You're basically telling the universe, like, there's no way in hell I could ever come up with an idea better than this. So don't even try. Don't even try giving me one, because there's no way in hell I could ever come up with anything better. Okay? You have to be like, just like spend your ideas like you got money coming out your and you're just like, you're just balling with ideas. If you ball with your ideas, you will always have more ideas. Okay. You don't need to be stingy with your ideas. Okay. So take all those ideas you have for that big book series and just drop them into one amazing action packed insanity book. And as time goes, you will have more ideas. Now, if you are one of these lucky people who, like, you had your ideas for your first book and you wrote it and it's like 90,000 words, then you don't need this information. And you probably already do the things I'm talking about without knowing you're even doing them. So it's fine. Um, Now, another way to do this, if you don't want to do it with like books and stuff like that, if you're more visual, look at your favorite movies and your favorite TV shows. And when you're watching them, write out each scene, each transition, each establishing shot. Just make a list. And if you're really good at this, just get index cards and write each thing on an index card and then flip it and say a little bit about what happens on that. Okay. And number them so you know what order they're in or whatever. Okay. So do this. And honestly, if you're watching these shows on like network TV or something, I'm not even joking about this because this is definitely going to help you, especially if you move into television. Write down like how many scenes there are before a commercial break and which commercial break it is. I'm not even joking you. Like, this is really good on how to hook somebody and keep them on the hook for extended periods of time. And then when to start amping up the action. Because if you've noticed, like sometimes there's more commercial breaks the farther into a show you get. Okay. All of this is done because the way storytelling works, it keeps you. So like these things happen, commercial break. These things happen, commercial break. These things, commercial. And you're like, Jesus Christ, there's a lot of commercials all of a sudden. But you're noticing it and you're getting irritated by it because you're into the show you're watching. Do you see what I'm saying? So keep note of all this stuff. And then if you're doing this with index cards, put them out on the floor and see if you could figure out how to arrange them differently and see if that could change how the story is told. But just seeing how that works, it's going to be really helpful for you in pacing your storytelling. The next thing a lot of people do, and I've heard people do this a bunch of times, they do this with a movie. They will like pace a movie and then go, okay, I need 60 scenes. It has to be like this, blah, 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 blah. And then they like map out an outline for their novel based on this movie they watched. Okay. The problem with that is when you do that, movies are short compared to books. So your book is now going to be like 30,000 pages or 30,000 words for a 2-hour movie. And you're going to be like, what the fuck happened? Like, this was supposed to be my book. Like, and I pasted off of a movie. Movies are short compared to books. You cannot do that. If you watch a movie, you know, like whenever they make a movie of your favorite book, you know, when you watch that, like, oh man, they took this out, they took this out, they took this out, blah, 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 blah. They're taking all this stuff out. Oh man, the book's so much better. Okay. It's because the book is going to be longer because the book has more stuff in it. Okay. So keep that in mind as well, obviously. Let's see. What else do I have here? Okay, so back to the whole premise of most of your ideas are not going to be long enough for you to write a book. If they are, again, great. You're ahead of the curve. You're doing wonderfully. But most people who start a project and then fail and don't finish it is because when they notice how much more the book is supposed to be based on what they started putting down, they get defeated. So the best way to fix this is to not ever have it be a thing where it's going to be too short. But we also don't want to fluff it out with a bunch of overwritten stuff that's going to be taken out in like the final edit anyway. So another thing we can do with this, and I really want you to think about this before you just like laugh it off or whatever. But if you have And just try this, even if it's not something you're going to do. If you have different stories in your head that you want to write later, kind of thing, and the one you're working on right now just seems maybe a little flat, maybe a little too one dimensional, like there isn't a whole lot there, smash your shit up. Okay. So take one of these different ideas you have and put it into your novel as like a B storyline or a C storyline and just run with it. Now, some of you might not want to do this because you're like, well, I really like that idea and I thought that would be really good. Great, but don't hoard your ideas. You're not a hoarder, you're a writer. So write. Okay. Um, when I did Black Star, there were quite a few things I added into it that were originally like short stories slash novels that I was going to write for different shit. So like probably the biggest arc in Black Star, would that be it? Maybe it is. Was there's this bit where one of the characters is trapped in this abandoned hospital in the basement with four other people that this doctor has been experimenting on for years. And now they're in there too. And everything that's going on with these other characters was something I had written for a story and like a book series that I wanted to do at one point. And the idea was good, but I just over the years had never like fleshed out that story. And I'm like, this is really cool, but I'm not going to do anything with this, I don't think. So I ended up taking that cool idea and shoving it in Black Star as like this minor thing and then just adding one of my characters into it. There's been other times when I just took away the main character from one story and then just added like my main character and now I have a new plot line kind of thing. So these are all like easy things to do that like add a lot of depth to your story and you didn't even like need to do it. And what's even funner, at least for me, is when I take some of these things and they are completely different genre and try to add that into it, but make it work in the genre that it's in. So like the idea with the doctor and the experiments on the people, that was kind of some like sci-fi crap. And like Black Star is more of like a horror thriller suspense thing. But adding this like kind of weird like pseudoscience sci-fi shit into the story was like to me like a really neat like thing that made it different and made it have just like a little extra flavor of something that it wouldn't have had before. Okay. So like I would say look through all of your stuff because like I'm sure you guys all have folders of notes of ideas and stuff like that. So just start going through all of these things and then just do something like this, like on a separate piece of paper. Go, okay, so say your character's name is Alice Coffee. Alice Coffee. Okay. That's the name of your character for your book series you're doing. Just go through your notebook of all of these ideas and go, okay, so now if Alice Coffee was the one who walked into this situation, how would she handle it? If Alice Coffee was the one driving this car off a cliff, what would she do? If Alice Coffee was the one who suddenly had to be put into a spaceship, what would happen? Okay. If Alice Coffee was on the bottom of the ocean floor, fucking Alice getting into all these fucking situations. But start doing that and just start seeing if any of this shit jumps out at you. Another thing to do, which is a lot of fun, is start looking at all the other characters you have and all of these separate things. Because a lot of you might have like characters. Like I had Detective Lucas from Black Star. I had Hitman Black from the Hitman Black books, the Gavel from the Gavel books, Dr. Roman from the Zombie Zero books, uh, Edwin Fennick from the Shallow Shallow books, Hank Bradshaw from the Dead Dame books, all this shit, right? So something that is like really fun to do is to like do like your little like Marvel superhero thing and mash these guys up and just see what it would be like. What would it be like for Detective Lucas to hang out with Alice Coffey one day? Do they get along okay? Is there chemistry there? Is this something I can work with? Can I bring this Alice Coffey into this world and have it make sense? Just start playing with stuff. The second you can break the walls down, because like the thing that drives me absolutely crazy about writers is that they're like, I can't do this. I can't do this because on paper it says this, this, and that. That is the world. I cannot change it. That is exactly how it is. It's on paper. That's why pencils have erasers. Like you can do whatever you want. You're a writer. Write something, create something. Like we were talking about it yesterday too. We were talking about how wait, was this yesterday? I can't remember when this was. But when Raymond Chandler ever wrote himself into a corner and didn't know what to do, he said, and then someone burst through the door with a gun because like he didn't know how to get out of it. So he had his get out of jail free card, which is some random person bust into a room with a gun. Every time he didn't know how to fucking move to the next topic or the next chapter, that's what would happen. So if you read any of Raymond Chandler's stuff, every time you see he burst in the room with a gun, that was because he didn't know what to do next. And that's how he got out of it. So, like, your stories, your characters, they're living, breathing things. They live inside your head. Inside your head. Okay, we're gonna get kind of weird right now. You are God. Okay, you are playing God. You inside your head, you have made this world. Okay, or a universe where there are all these different worlds where all of these people live that you have created, and you can watch them like live their life, and you can add things into their life to make their life more difficult or to make it easier. Give them happiness, give them sadness. You could do whatever you want because you are the God. You are the omnipresent God looking down on your creation. Okay. But God would never say in a million years, oh, I can't possibly do this because, you know, like, I mean, I wrote it down somewhere that where he's just going to sit at his desk. He can't go anywhere today. That's fucking weird. Like, I mean, I wrote it down. Like, it sounds ridiculous. So let your characters live and breathe and grow and do stuff. And if you've created all these different things, they having them merge together isn't going to be that big of a stretch because they came from you. You know what I'm saying? So most of the characters you create will, unless it's like this person is a pirate in the 1600s and this person's from the future. But I could in my head right now go, oh, that would be awesome. Like a pirate from the 1600s and a robot from the future. Man, what a buddy cop movie that would be. You know what I'm saying? So you can do all of these things to give your story legs, to give it life. Because the thing is, your story should never, ever bore you. Never. If you're typing and you're getting tired, or you're yawning, or you're bored, like your reader's going to be bored. If you're typing when you're tired and exhausted, your reader is going to feel that because you are putting that energy into your words. Like, you have to be excited and happy and peppy when you're writing your stuff to make people want to read that. Again, energy transference through art. This is like a new thing that I'm really stuck on right now, but it's real. Like, I believe it's real. Okay. And I believe people can tell when the shit you write is not your top tier shit because of how tired or exhausted or how bored you were of a story. If you were writing something and you don't like a chapter, but you're like, oh, I got to write this chapter just to get to this next thing, you don't have to fucking write that chapter. Write something else. Have the next chapter start 2 chapters ahead and then try to fill in the blanks. You can do anything. There are no rules. All you have to do is write a book the length that you think a book needs to be written. That's it. Some of you who are just doing self-publishing, which I think is the way to go, some of you guys, when you guys are writing, it doesn't matter how long your book is. It could be 10,000 words, it could be 15,000 words, it could be 20,000 words or 80,000 words. Just try to price it accordingly, because that's where people get pissed off. People don't give a shit if your book's only 5,000 words long and it's just like a short story, as long as it's priced properly. Like, don't charge $10 for fucking 5,000 words. You know what I'm saying? And the best way to figure this out is to wander through Amazon and see how much Kindle books go for based on their page. Now, if it's from a real publisher, like a big 5 publisher, it's going to be a ridiculous amount of money that no one should ever pay for a fucking ebook. Just saying. But other than that, if you go for more indie and self-published stuff, you will get a sense of what prices things should be. Okay. So, I kind of want to do questions now and talk about any of the stuff that you guys need to talk about. I'm pretty sure I've gone over everything I wanted to hear. And when we're done with this, members are going to get an email from me with the Zoom link, and we will get into the writing Zoom. So if you guys have any questions, leave them in the chat. And hopefully Bunny won't call you out and throw you into the street. But so while you guys are thinking of questions to ask, if you need questions asked, because if you don't need questions asked, that just means I did a bang up job and I said everything I needed to say and you guys have nothing to ask. But, and then there will be homework too, by the way. So keep that in mind. Tomorrow we're going to be going over voice and how to find your voice in your novel. And then on Thursday, we're going to be talking about imposter syndrome and kind of how to make sure that doesn't happen. And if it does rear its ugly head, what to do about it. And then Friday is going to be kind of a little bit of a brag sesh for everybody, but also setting goals, how to keep track of goals and things of that nature. Because especially if you're writing a novel, if you don't have deadlines and goals and things of this nature, there's a very good possibility you will never finish your book. Okay. A novel is a big thing to do. If you're doing short stories, like you usually don't need a deadline to do it, because most short stories you could probably write in one sitting, maybe 2 or 3. But a novel, you're going to have to work on. Let's see. Are boring things not necessary? Are boring things not necessary? Or is there a decent middle ground to land on? Well, when you're pacing for like excitement, like, and you're trying to get people into something, okay? Like at least emotionally. You can't be going 100 miles an hour the entire time because then it just becomes 100 miles an hour is 0 miles an hour. We've been going this fast for so long that this is now how fast we're going. I mean, I don't know how fast the earth is spinning, but it's spinning pretty fucking fast that if it stopped, we would all be hurled through space like bullets. But it's been spinning for so long, and we're used to it that we don't feel the earth spinning. You see what I'm saying? When you're on an airplane, the airplane's flying at ridiculous speeds, but it's been flying for so long you don't realize that the plane's in motion for the most part. Okay. So there has to be little moments that lull the reader into a false sense of security. So when you hit it back up again, like it's exciting. Okay. So it's like, what do you call it? Like a roller coaster. Like roller coasters go up and down and up and down. And when they go up, it's like, and then it goes and it comes down super fast. Now, what I would say, there's a difference between moving the story along and being boring. You can have something crazy happen. So I don't know, like somebody busts in the room with a gun and everyone's freaking out and it's like, oh my gosh. And then someone throws a potted plant at the guy and knocks him out, and they jump out the window and run around the corner to a deli. And now they're sitting in a deli hiding out. They ordered a sandwich because they didn't know what to do. And they didn't know if they should have pepperoni or salami. And it's like, this is weird. I don't know what to do. And it's like, come on, we just need to have a sandwich so people don't stare at us and all this other shit. And then they go and they sit down. And while they're sitting down, the woman says, oh, yeah, by the way, the reason why that guy came after us with the gun is because that's my husband. I don't know how to tell you this, but we've been married for 15 years and he's been chasing me and blah, 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 blah. So we're getting information that moves the story forward, and we had a little bit of like, oh, that was a weird little sandwich conversation, but like, and it's a lull. But then what happens next is that before they know it, before he has a chance to even answer, the damn deli's on fire and windows are shattering. And then Godzilla's foot comes through and steps on the fucking place. And then a plane crashes into Godzilla's eyeball and Godzilla hurts his eye. And he's like, ow, fuck, I have an airplane in my eyeball. Okay. So, like, something doesn't have to be boring to move a story forward. Okay. Or something doesn't have to be boring to be the lull, is probably the better way to put it. Okay. So just make sure your story is always moving forward. Always moving forward. Unless you are just really wanting to be one of those auteur authors that just like writes boring ass shit, but it's so long that people can't help but think, wow, this has to be literary fiction and high art because it's so fucking boring. This has to be good, right? But if you're writing crime, you have to constantly be keeping everyone's attention. So if you're writing a crime novel, there should never be a boring bit. If you're writing any genre fiction, there should never be anything boring. There should never be a boring bit. There could be lulls, but no boring bits. Okay. So what we're going to do now, keep giving questions if you have questions to give, but this is going to be basically your homework. Okay. I want you to have like a blueprint, like an outline. It could be loose and goosey as anything of your novel or your short story. But if you're going to do a novel, try to actually put out like each chapter, what's going to happen in each chapter, and find out how many chapters that is. Okay. And find out how many words are going to be on a page, and or how many words are going to be in each chapter of your book, and try to get an idea of how long that book is going to be, and see if that feels good to you, and see if that fits market for the genre you're writing in, if you are looking to send this out to publishers and agents. Okay. If you're looking to just self-publish, it doesn't matter. Like length means nothing. Okay. So do that. With that said as well, find out if you're going to do this thing with the books that we were talking about, like picking out your favorite books. If you want to do the thing tonight where you sit and watch like your favorite movie and try to map out every scene and like figure out how to do that with the scene cards and everything like that. If you want to do that. Okay. But now, since you have this done, I want you to make a list of all the other ideas you have and try to figure out if any of those ideas can fit into your novel that you're working on. Okay. Or if any of the chapters you have in your novel actually would just make a better short story with any character. Like you could change the character to Nancy Shoehead. Okay. Doesn't matter. All right. Then when you're done doing all of that, think of these different like scenarios you have for all of these sequels to your book, and see if there's a way you could just shoehorn that stuff into the book you're writing now to make that book you're writing a better, more exciting book, or even just longer book. Okay. But just do not ever, ever overwrite just to fill words on a page. It's awful, and people will see right through it, and most editors will see right through it. So like there's no reason at all to do it. You're just going to lose those words anyway. Okay. Any other questions? If there aren't, down below is a link for tomorrow's little workshop thing here, little lesson thing. And for those of you who are in the Anarchy crew, I will be sending out the what do you call it? The Zoom link for the writing stream that's going to happen right now. And we're probably going to do one again later tonight for those of you who can't make today, but you guys could still do tonight. So we will have another one for that. I'm trying to think if there was anything else. Oh, join the Anarchy crew. Click join down below. Click any tier Anarchy crew or higher if you want to be a part of the writing Zooms and accountability groups to help you get your book done in a timely manner so you can get your book out and be a published fucking writer and do the fucking thing. Okay? And again, this doesn't have to be for fiction. This could be for poetry. This could be for short stories. This could be for screenplays. This could be for music, for songs. Like all of these things. I mean, obviously, there were a lot of things I said in here that were very specific, like word counts and all this other shit. But other than that, like just actual story basics, this is for any type of written like art. You're fine. Okay. So I will be sending out the stuff. Type hard, guys, and write all that shit down. Get your blueprints ready because I'm going to ask for them tomorrow. Okay. So I will be sending out the stuff to you guys, and I will talk to you in a bit. Bye.